Israel's protected spaces have protected the latter nation's population from shedding, a fact within the African elite's knowledge. No demands for safe shelters and or disclosure of any protection strategy ever follows from the witnessing of such scenes. So, via construction of bunkers, immediate action must commence. Further, we need the nuclear arsenal decommissioned, totally or substantially. Rearing fellow Merinos in nuclear powers to resist self-destruction must follow forthwith. Merinos ought to move the younger people in their respective world powers prod for that's one, a halt on nuclear weapons stockpiling, decommissioning of the nuclear arsenal for the good of the world. Whereas the world remains remnants of a nuclear war flocking intact nations to occupy the same, there is no conclusive evidence to the effect that such a war would not weaken the freeing victims into enslavement in the new world of refuge. If the younger generations in the developed world were made to appreciate the devastated, the latter would use their power, which they at least wield, in their democracies to push for a safe world. The grandfathers, the Merinos, and the latter's big brothers never took the requisite shot to nip the self-destructive technology in the bud. Merinos and the subsequent generations, let's join hands with all our energies and sophistication to achieve a safe world. Africa should foster unity among the local actors. The only accusation imperialists ride on to assail and sometimes tinker with the leadership in LDCs is human rights violation by their respective leaders. Indeed, the aforestated violations, especially in a number of African nations, abound. The whipping, tear gassing, unlawful arrests and detentions, and in some cases death follow, and largely the crackdown on riots and other forms of expressing dissatisfaction by the victims is always the source. Some of such riots are foreign sponsored. The solution therefore stated is abundantly available to African leaders. Increasing funding for the political parties locally would in effect make the dissenting leaders reliant on their nations as opposed to turning the imperialists. Following the apt funding, legislating to make such local actors accountable would form part of the vital steps to foster unity among the local actors. And strategically, some African governments rather opt to channel such monies to acquiring anti-riot equipment instead of using the same to prevent the riots. Pan-Africanism has not been sufficiently inculcated as well. The Pan-African movement ought to re-strategize. We need a strengthened UN. The United Nations should be elevated to a state with sophisticated weaponry to whip the recalcitrant leaders. The strengthened and jointly run UN ought to be handed the monopoly of deterrence weaponry. The world cannot be safe and remains exposed to obliteration with vaporizing weapons remaining in the hands of various states. As such, the international law should be strengthened inter alia to provide for establishment of a stronger international court with wider UN as an enforcement body of the international law itself. Each and every nation should respond upon being invited by UN to join the enforcement mission. Sanctioning of any should follow conviction by the aforestated court. Increased and mandatory commensurate contribution of resources to fund the envisaged UN. The aforestated call for the redrafting of the UN Charter. Sanctions for the recalcitrant leaders ought to be enacted. So, we must all move to assess the situation through inter alia that here in recommendations in a timely manner. The time is now. I'm Alan Barrio, a Merenio,
a lawyer based in Uganda, and a Pan-Africanist.